Dawn hasn't broken yet. The cold air of late autumn is still strong, and the surroundings are still pitch black. In the cellar of the Luo family, an oil lamp has been quietly lit. The young man Luo Zheng covers most of the light from the oil lamp. He sits upright in front of the table and quietly takes out a worn-out thread-bound book. Luo Zheng has just turned 17 this year. He is thin and can't be said to be handsome, but he has a gentle temperament. Especially his eyes, which are very spirited. Even under the dim light of the oil lamp, his eyes are still shining. It took me a month to finish reading this Heaven's Inquisition of the Constitution. The principles are all good, but I can't agree with the 4 words requite evil with good. Luo Zheng whispers softly. Looking at the pea-sized flame, his face shows a sad expression. If it weren't for my father's kindness, if he didn't believe in these 4 words, my family wouldn't have ended up like this, and my father wouldn't have died. After thinking for a long time, the sound of a lock being unlocked suddenly comes from the cellar door. Luo Zheng immediately dispels the sad expression in his eyes, and it is replaced by a face full of determination. At the same time, he nimbly blows out the oil lamp and covers himself with the worn-out quilt. The cellar's lock is opened, and several footsteps come from afar. The person in the lead comes forward and steps on Luo Zheng's bed. He shouts with a sharp voice, "Are you still sleeping? Get up! Do you still think you're the young master of the Luo family?" This person is a steward of the Luo family. He has a sharp mouth and monkey cheeks, and a tumor on his forehead. At first glance, he makes people feel disgusted. Luo Zheng lifts the quilt and deliberately rubs his eyes. He climbs up from the bed and silently puts on his shoes, socks, and clothes. Although these clothes are worn out, Luo Zheng still wears them meticulously and neatly. The steward rolled his eyes and said, "Moral character." Then he waved his hand and several servants behind him surrounded Luo Zheng. They put on thick leather armor, handcuffs, and shackles on Luo Zheng's hands and feet. After finishing this, Luo Zheng walked out of the cellar under the guidance of a servant and headed for the Luo family's drill hall. The Luo family was a big family in Chongming County. They owned thousands of acres of fertile land and hundreds of mines. They were famous in Chongming County. However, there were over 1,000 counties in the entire eastern region. Among them, there were countless noble clans. The Luo Clan was not ranked high in the entire eastern region. Escorted by the servants, Luo Zheng crawled out of the gloomy cellar, passed through countless pavilions, terraces, bridges, corridors and boats, and finally arrived at the entrance of the drill hall. The drill hall was spacious. It was the place where the disciples of the Luo family practiced. Dragons, phoenixes, and lions were carved with white marble at the entrance. The ground was paved with 1-meter square black tortoise stones. Standing at the entrance of the drill hall, one could feel the grandeur of the hall. In the middle of the martial arts hall, dozens of gray-robed disciples of the Luo family were practicing martial arts under the guidance of the Luo family's instructor. The wind from his fists blew, and he shouted again and again. These disciples of the Luo family were all in their teens. In order to fight for a certain status in the Luo family, they studied diligently every day and practiced hard to refine their bodies. The cold autumn wind was bone-chilling, but their bodies were sweating profusely. Some of them even had steam rising from their heads and white mist curling around them. On one side of the drill hall, there were already more than a dozen men wearing leather armor and shackles on their hands and feet like Luo Zheng's. These men all had a weak aura. Their noses were bruised and their faces were swollen. There were wounds all over their bodies. After being escorted into the drill hall, Luo Zheng stood with these men. Most of these men with weak auras were prisoners on death row that the Luo family bought from the local prison. They were bought back and became the slaves of the Luo family. The purpose of these slaves was to act as human targets for the disciples of the Luo family to beat, train and test their strength at will. These human targets were beaten to death every year. Who knew how many of them were crippled? Luo Zheng was not a prisoner on death row that was bought back. He used to be the eldest son of the main branch of the Luo family, the famous young master. He had a noble status in the Luo family. When his peers met him, they had to salute him very respectfully. Even the elders of the family were polite to him. However, 2 years ago, a major event happened in Chongyang County. Luo Zheng's father, the head of the Luo family, was poisoned and plotted against by his own brothers. He suddenly died. Then, the main branch was framed by the other 3 branches of the Luo family. They were accused of betraying the family. Under the quarrel between the brothers, the main branch completely declined. Luo Zheng, as the former young master, was also accused of betraying the family. He was reduced to a slave of the Luo family and became a human target for the Luo family. He was beaten by the disciples of the Luo family to practice martial arts, never to rise again. This kind of life of being beaten at will had already lasted for 2 years. In these 2 years, Luo Zheng had already suffered countless kicks and punches and suffered countless insults. Today's martial arts practice ends here. Disciples of the Luo family, choose your own human target. Hitting the human body will allow you to fully comprehend the skills in actual combat, familiarize yourself with the weaknesses of the human body and the distribution of the bones. After the Luo family's instructor gave the order, the disciples of the Luo family each looked for their own human target. Soon, the martial arts practice hall was filled with cries and begging for mercy. These disciples of the Luo family did not treat these slaves as human beings at all. Many of them found Luo Zheng and beat him with more vigor and strength. This was because trampling on the former young master gave them a greater sense of accomplishment. Facing the fists of the Luo family disciples, Luo Zheng protected the vital parts of his body. His face was expressionless as he calmly responded. This, he was already used to it. Not long after, a few people suddenly walked in from the entrance of the martial arts practice hall. The young man in the lead was wearing a brocade robe and was beaming with happiness. The young master is here. Young master, you finally came out of seclusion. Looking at your refreshed spirit, you must have made great progress in your cultivation. The young master is talented and intelligent. You are the genius of our Luo family. You must have entered the bone refining stage. The disciples of the Luo family present stopped beating and talked to the young man in brocade robe one after another. Their flattery was overflowing from their faces. Luo Zheng's eyes fell on the young man in brocade robe. An imperceptible anger quietly rose in his heart. The young man in brocade robe, the young master of the Luo family disciples, was called Luo Pan. He used to be the eldest son of the second branch and was about the same age as Luo Zheng. After Luo Zheng was demoted to a slave, Luo Pan replaced Luo Zheng and became the young master of the Luo family. Some time ago, it was said that Luo Pan was in seclusion for cultivation and did not appear for a long time. Now that he came out of seclusion, it seemed that Luo Pan's strength had improved again. Luo Pan's perception was very sharp. He was aware of Luo Zheng's unfriendly gaze. He turned his head to look at Luo Zheng. A playful smile appeared on his face. He walked in front of Luo Zheng and said, "Luo Zheng, I have been in seclusion for a long time. I didn't expect you to still be alive. Thank you for your kind words." "I won't die," Luo Zheng replied in a muffled voice. "Impudent. What kind of tone is this? How dare you speak to the young master like this? You are just a slave, why don't you kneel down? Quickly prostrate yourself on the ground and apologize to the young master. Otherwise, you will regret being born into this world." Several disciples of the Luo family shouted. Looking at them, it was as if Luo Zheng had dug up their ancestral graves. Luo Zheng looked around coldly. In the past, these disciples of the Luo family were like dogs in front of him. They did not even dare to breathe loudly. Now that he had lost power, each and every one of them changed faces faster than flipping a book. They immediately became Luo Pan's dogs. Luo Pan waved his hand and stopped those excited disciples of the Luo family. He said to Luo Zheng with a smug expression, "Luo Zheng, do you know why I was in seclusion?" Luo Zheng did not speak. He only looked at Luo Pan with a gloomy expression. "You should know that our Luo family has 2 worldly creation pills. Some time ago, I ate one of them." Luo Pan smacked his lips and said, "This worldly creation pill is indeed extraordinary. The pure medicinal power cleansed my body, allowing me to be reborn. I jumped from the flesh refinement stage to the bone refinement stage. Moreover, only 1/10 of the medicinal power was used. It remained in my body and continuously nourished my body. I am only a fine line away from entering the organ refinement stage. The marrow refinement stage is just around the corner." The worldly creation pill. These 2 pills were the most precious treasures of the Luo family. They were sacred medicines left behind by their ancestors. It was said that they were stored in the most hidden place of the family. Ordinary people were not allowed to use them. According to the ancestral teachings, only disciples of the Luo family who had reached the bone refinement stage before the age of 16 were qualified to use the worldly creation pill. The 5 realms of the physical body were divided into 5 major realms. The first was the skin refinement stage, the second was the flesh refinement stage, the third was the bone refinement stage, the fourth was the organ refinement stage, and the fifth was the marrow refinement stage. The difference between each realm was huge. It was extremely difficult for an ordinary person to break through. Without dozens of years of tempering, it was impossible to break through. An ordinary person who reached the 3rd level of the bone refinement stage before the age of 30 was considered to be extremely talented. However, according to the ancestral teachings, only those who had reached the 3rd level of the bone refinement stage before the age of 16 were qualified to use the worldly creation pill. To reach the bone refinement stage before the age of 16 was undoubtedly a genius among geniuses. Not to mention the Luo family. Even in the entire Chongming County, there had never been such a person. Therefore, for the past 300 years, the worldly creation pill had never been used. Originally, Luo Zheng was the most promising person to take the worldly creation pill. At the age of 14, he had reached the peak of the 2nd level of the flesh refinement stage and was hailed as the hope of revitalizing the Luo family by royal Prince Chongyang. He was favored by the heavens and was a genius among geniuses. Unfortunately, in this year, there was internal strife within the family. His father was harmed by his own brother because of his pure heart. Luo Zheng was demoted to a servant and became a human target. He was reduced to a prisoner and his cultivation stagnated. He missed the opportunity to take the worldly creation pill. Luo Pan's talent was ordinary and he had just reached the 2nd level of the flesh refinement stage at the age of 16. He was not qualified to take the worldly creation pill, but he still took it. The worldly creation pill belonged to him, but it was eaten by this kind of untalented trash. Even though Luo Zheng's temperament had been completely smoothed out over the past 2 years, he still could not help but become agitated. He angrily said, "Luo Pan, you dare to disregard the Luo family's ancestral teachings and take the sacred medicine for yourself. You're worse than an animal. Humph, in my eyes, you're worse than an insect in the cracks of a rock. I've already stepped into the peak of the bone refinement stage. I can hold 1,000 jin in one hand. You're just a mere servant. I can crush you with one hand. Today, I've come out of seclusion to celebrate, so I'll first find a human target to test my strength on." Luo Pan did not take Luo Zheng's words to heart. Speaking to hear, he casually pointed and said, "I choose you." He did not choose Luo Zheng. Instead, he found a middle-aged man. When the middle-aged man saw Luo Pan point at him, his entire body suddenly trembled. Although he wore thick leather armor on his chest that could withstand a lot of damage, facing the bone refinement stage Luo Pan, he could not help but shiver. His crotch was suddenly wet. Then Luo Pan took a deep breath. He clenched his hands into fists and assumed the posture of the Luo family's red sandalwood fist. He wanted to show off, so he operated his heart technique to the extreme. His entire body was faintly shrouded in a faint purple light. Spare my life. Young master, please spare my life. When the human target saw Luo Pan's imposing manner, his eyes revealed an expression of despair. If this fist came crashing down, he would definitely die. He begged for mercy and was about to kneel down. Boom! How could Luo Pan listen to the human target's pleas for mercy? This fist hit the center of the human target's chest. There was a dull sound. The leather armor on the human target's chest was forcibly broken into pieces. His entire chest was shattered. The human target directly hit the wall of the drill hall and bounced to the ground, motionless. With just one punch, he had killed the fully armed human target. Young master's fist is mighty. I'm afraid we can't find a second one among the young people of the Luo family. Young master will definitely revitalize the Luo family and bring the Luo family to greater heights. The Luo family's children seized the opportunity to madly flatter him. Luo Pan seemed to be very satisfied with the effect of this fist. Then he looked at Luo Zheng with evil intentions. Luo Zheng subconsciously took a step back. Even though his foundation was quite a bit stronger than that middle-aged man's, he still couldn't take Luo Pan's fist. Luo Pan chuckled. He reached out his hand and fiercely patted Luo Zheng's shoulder. Don't worry, I won't beat you to death so quickly. I want you to see that I, Luo Pan, am much stronger than trash like you. When Luo Pan finished speaking and was about to leave, he suddenly thought of something. He turned around and said, "Right, I forgot something. I heard that my genius cousin didn't do well in the Blue Cloud sect. She offended a great figure and was sent to Purgatory Mountain to reflect on her mistakes. When I enter the Viscera refinement realm, I'll go to the Blue Cloud sect to save her, ha ha ha." When he heard this, Luo Zheng's heart